So, I'm 16 years old. I'm going to City Hall with my sister Roz because I'm getting my birth certificate so that I can get my driver's license. And I am psyched. I want to drive really badly. Go to the donut shop where my friends are, go to the movies, just be independent. So I tell the woman behind the counter, Susan Birke, B-I-R-K-E, and before I even get to my birth date, she says, "Oh honey, I know your family and there's like a Z in your name." I'm thinking, I've been Susan Birke for a really long time, but my parents are Holocaust survivors. English is their fourth or fifth language, and they sometimes could spell, shall we say, creatively. So maybe there's a Z somewhere in this name. She hands me back this little piece of paper, which is my birth certificate, and she's right, there is a Z. But this is nothing I recognize. I see on this piece of paper, S-Z-I-F-R-A, R, B-I-R-K-E. We were the only B-I-R-K-Es. There were lots of Irish Catholic B-U-R-K-Es, but we were the only ones who spelled our names with an I, and it was June 28, 1950, had to be me, but this wasn't a me I had ever seen before. I had been Susan Birke, no middle initial, no fuss, no frills, not a great name, but it worked. And now I'm trying to figure out what this is. So my sister and I leave City Hall, heading back to my parents' store. I'm determined to figure this out, and I'm most determined to find a way to stay Susan Birke. Even though I didn't love the name, it was okay, it was better than whatever this was. So we're walking on the street, and I'm trying to figure this out and decipher this, S-Z-I-F-R-A thing. And I'm, Szifra, Zifra. And nothing's clicking, and all of a sudden, my sister Roz gets hysterical. She can't stop laughing. And she says, through the hysterics, "Oh my God, Sue, they named you Szifra." Well, when you're a Jew, you get a Hebrew name and you get an American name. And your Hebrew name or your Yiddish name is usually somebody who died, who was important in the family, but you don't do anything with that name. It's just kind of like, you just have it. So I knew that my Hebrew name was Szifra Leah. I was named after my grandmother who died in the Holocaust. And I just thought that was like the name that wasn't going to be anything anywhere. So I get to my parents' store, which fortunately wasn't busy, and I show this to my parents, and I'm really in a meltdown. I don't want to be this, I don't know what Szifra R, I don't know what the R is. I just want to be Susan Birke, and, I'm a cheerleader, I'm just trying to be normal, I'm 16. So I show them, they ignore me. They look and they start to do this banter back and forth. Sala, what is this R? I don't know. I thought we named her Szifra Leah. I wonder what the R is. Well, pretty soon, they discover what the R is, and my dad says, "Oi, I guess we named her Ruchel." Ruchel sounded like vomit to me. 25 minutes ago, I was Susan Birke, no middle initial, no nothing. And now I am Szifra Ruchel Birke. That evening, I'm still falling apart and don't know what to do. I'm determined to be Susan Birke somehow, some way. But I want to know, how did this happen? So I asked, like, how did I get to be Susan all these years? Where did Susan come from? Well, we had the customer. I remember now. The customer said, you can't call her Szifra. It's like a foreign-sounding name. So what should we call her? They were told to call me Susan. It was a good American name. Okay, we'll call her Susan. I guess we forgot. So between the ages of 16 and 18, when, from license time to going to college, I'm trying to decide, am I going to college as Susan Birke? I have to change my name legally. I don't know if I want to do that. Or am I going to college as Szifra Birke, a name that nobody has ever known me as, including me? But I decide I'm going to give it a shot. So I go to BU as Szifra Birke, and so people ask my name. I kind of tentatively say Szifra, and they call me Szifra because they think that's my name. And on the home front, my 8-year-old brother decides that he's going to be my greatest ally in this conversion from Susan to Szifra. So if you were a sibling of mine or a parent of mine, and you called me Sue, which you've been calling me for 16 years and then 18, my brother would say, we don't have a Susan or a Sue here in this family, but we do have a Szifra. If you were a friend who called, you got the same exact treatment. So, I'm now in my 30s, I'm living in Indiana. I've been Szifra for a while. I'm clearly Szifra. To the people in Indiana, they've never even known about Sue or Susan. And they ask me, when they discover, they hear my name and say, so, like, where did you get your name, or what does it mean, or some kind of question. And I would tell them the truth, that Szifra was an Egyptian name. She was one of the nursemaids, the brave nursemaids in the Bible. And that was the truth. It was a half-truth, in that I didn't tell them anything about the Jewish part of that story. I was nervous to talk about the Jewish part of that story. At 50, I was sitting with my mom at her kitchen table, and my mom was very stoic. And she had tears in her eyes, and she was staring at me. I had no idea what was going on, but I asked her, is everything okay? And she said, Shiv, everything's okay. I'm just thinking you look just like my mother. And I wasn't sure if that was a gift or if that was really upsetting, because my mother had lost her entire family. Her mother, her father, her brothers, her sister, everyone in her family, as my father's, they were all exterminated during the Holocaust. So I wasn't sure, and I asked her. And she said, yes, it's hard. It's good. It's a good hard. I loved my mother. And every time I look at you, I get to be close to my mother again. I was really happy to give my mother that gift. And my mother was so clear about, I'm so glad we named you Szifra. It was really a gift to both of us. Today, it's been 51 years since the walk from City Hall, when I would have done anything to not be Szifra Birke. And today, I am thrilled and honored to have my name. Today, when people ask me, so where did Szifra come from, or what does it mean? I tell them the whole story. I tell them that Szifra was a nursemaid, an Egyptian nursemaid in the Bible, who dared to disobey the Pharaoh's order to kill the firstborn Hebrew children. The Jews kind of like that. So they took that name and they used it a lot. And Szifra was a very common name pre-Holocaust for Jews. It was common like Susan. And I had a grandmother Szifra and an aunt Szifra, and having gone back to Poland, I discovered there were Szifras everywhere. And so today, I get to, every time I get the opportunity, because somebody asked me about my name, because it's pretty weird, S-Z-I-F-R-A, and Szifra, I get the chance to pay homage to the family who was lost and never got to tell their story. Thank you.